What makes people creative and innovative? Is it something in their genes or a skill that they've learned? Back in 2008, on a hot summer's day in rural India, a place called Kuppam, 2 hours by road from Bangalore, 2 teenage village girls, Rani and Roja, sat under a tree to escape the sun, a sensible thing to do in the Indian summer, right? So as they chatted, Rani looked at Roja and said, "You know, Roja, do you ever wonder why you feel cool or cooler sitting in the shade of a tree?" Roja thought for a second and said, yeah, maybe it has something to do with the fact that the leaves and branches of the tree shield us from the sun." And the girls continued talking until the aha question popped out. Would different leaves have different cooling effects? And that question became the title of a project, The Cooling Effect of Leaves. And 9 months later, working with teachers from the Agastya Foundation, the girls won a prestigious Intel Science Award at the national level, competing with the best and brightest kids from across India, most of them from relatively well-heeled schools. So what does the story tell you? I think it tells you the value of curiosity, the spirit of inquiry, the magic of wonder, the power of passion, staying with the problem till you've cracked it. You know, Einstein attributed his revolutionary insights to 3 things: curiosity, obsession, and dogged endurance. The mission of Agastya, the foundation that I chair, is to spark curiosity, nurture creativity, and importantly, instill confidence in economically disadvantaged children across India and government school teachers. And the way we're doing it is through a outreach program consisting of 120 mobile science vans that carry ingenious low-cost science experiments to village schools during the day and to village communities at night, 50 labs on motorcycles, for which incidentally we won the Google Global Impact Award 2 years ago, 50 science centers, and an idea factory, our campus creativity lab that's set on 172 acres of barren wasteland 2 hours by road from Bangalore, where we've built a lot of hands-on interactive centers. So when I went back to India in the late 1990s with a dream to spark curiosity and creativity, I asked the team a question. I said, look, is it possible to raise the level of an ocean, to raise the speed limit of creativity in a country? Or is that a contradiction in terms? And we came up with a model. We said, look, you know, creative people, great problem solvers, innovators, tend to see a lot more than the average person does. They're very good at observing. They see things that others don't see. There's a process of awareness, a gestation in their minds when new ideas germinate and grow. And they're very good at assimilating, associating, synthesizing, integrating different strands of apparently unconnected information to produce something of value to society. So we said, but all of this, curiosity, observation, association, and application, is based on the foundational skill of observation, association, application, based on curiosity. So the key is to spark curiosity, and that'll be the mission of our foundation. But to be curious, you need to be motivated to be curious. You must want to find out. So along with curiosity comes motivation and confidence, right? And we said, let's go with hands-on experiential learning. And since I was advised by a lot of scientists, I'm not a scientist, we went with hands-on science. And over the years, we said, you know, the trick, the secret to doing all this really lies with a simple toy like this. It's fascinating. It's called the tippy top. You put it on a surface and it sits on its bottom because that's where its center of gravity is, right? But you spin it, and depending on the surface and the speed with which you spin it, it tips over rather unexpectedly and spins on its stem. And when you see something like that, counterintuitive, simple, unexpected, you go, ah. And the ah is very important. To stimulate the ah in somebody is really critical. Because in the ah, your mind is awakened, your curiosity is stirred. right? And the second thing is you see it spinning and you go, now why did that happen, or how did that happen? Now in the case of the tippy top, I'm not a scientist, it's not trivial. There's a picture on the internet with Wolfgang Pauli and Niels Bohr actually in 1951 watching this tip over, and you can see on their faces they're wondering why it happens. Okay? So you explore, you want to find out why something happens. Could it happen in a different way? And if you do find out, if you fill in the blanks, you have the famous aha effect. So the second most important thing is the aha effect, the ah and the aha. The third is you must have fun doing what you're doing, right? That's the ha-ha element, right? So there you go. So ah, aha, and ha-ha, we decided, are really the three key mantras for injecting the creative spark in learning. Now, if you assess or evaluate any education system, or a class that you've been to, or a lecture that you've heard, and ask yourself, was there any ah, aha, and or ha-ha? If the answer is no, then that was a waste of time. And unfortunately, a lot of our education systems lack that. So Agastya's mission really is to disseminate the ah, aha, ha-ha. Now, when you do that, some very important behavioral shifts begin to happen within you. The shift from yes to why and why not, from looking to observing, from being very passive to learning to explore, from being very textbook or today internet bound to being more hands-on, and finally the most important shift, the shift from fear to confidence, right? What psychologists call the shift from learned helplessness to learned optimism. I visit a lot of village schools because we do work in villages in India. And a few years ago, I went to this rather remote village school and wanted to find out what impact we were having, if any. So I asked the teacher, are we having any impact? And she pointed me to a girl, Uma. Said, go and talk to her. She's one of those girls like Rani and Roja that you have taught to teach other children. So she's a leader. Go and interview her. So I went up to Uma and said, Uma, what impact have we had? And I thought she'd say, I'm doing great in science, topping my class. And it turned out she was. But that's not what she told me. She looked at me and said, sir, I'm not afraid to speak anymore. Now that was my ah, aha, ha, ha, all in one, in that instant. Because I realized that the real impact, the profound impact of all the hands-on experiential interactions that we were having with children and teachers across India, certainly there was a positive impact in terms of their studies and test scores and so on, but the real impact was in helping them to transform their self-belief, in raising their self-confidence, in becoming more confident in life. And that really is the secret to transformation. Can you help build that self-belief? Shiv was talking about Gandhi, and I remember reading about this great educator in Karnataka who passed away a few years ago. And there was a story from his life when he said he was standing under a tree somewhere, and Gandhi happened to be passing by that village. And he looked at him, made eye contact, went up to him, patted him on his shoulder and said, you look like a leader, now go and make things happen. And this man, I think his name was Narsimhaya, said, that was my defining moment. I was transformed. I suddenly believed it was worth it and I can do it.